Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Billi FitzSimons.
I'm Zara Seidler.
We are taking a break from our election coverage today to update you on another event that you've probably been hearing a lot about in the headlines, the mushroom trial. In case you missed it, the murder trial of a woman accused of killing 3 people by serving them poisonous mushrooms is underway in Victoria's Supreme Court. Erin Patterson was charged with murder after 3 people died following a meal at her home in July 2023. She pleaded not guilty, and so now we are in the middle of a 6-week trial. On today's podcast, we're getting you up to speed with the details of the case.
Billi, I remember when this story first broke a couple of years ago, it was absolutely everywhere. I think it was just such a unique story, and there were so many elements that just defied logic, really, that it was all anyone was talking about. But as you said, it has been 2 years since the incident took place. So can you just give everyone a really quick recap of what happened?
Yeah, before I tell you what happened, I'm going to take you through kind of who the main characters are because there are so many different details and twists and turns. So I'll just give you a very brief overview. So the first person, who I think is probably the most important person you need to know about to understand this, is Erin Patterson. Mm-hmm. She is 50. She is a mum of 2, and she's the person who is accused of these murders and who is currently standing trial. Mm-hmm. Now, she was married to a man named Simon Patterson, and he's the father of their 2 children. They married in 2007. They split in 2015, but they never divorced. They were just estranged, and they, by all accounts, had a relatively good relationship. It kind of went downhill in late 2022, which we will talk about, but yeah, they pretty much had a quite good relationship. And Simon didn't attend the lunch, which is kind of at the center of all of these allegations, but it was his relatives who did attend the lunch, and 3 of them died and 1 fell critically ill. He was invited to the lunch, but he didn't attend. He actually pulled out the night before the lunch because he said that he felt uncomfortable attending. Now, to speak about the lunch that I've referenced many times. So this is where the alleged poisoning took place, and it all happened in July 2023. Now, Erin invited her estranged husband's parents, so her ex-in-laws. Yep. Their names are Don and Gail Patterson. And she also invited her ex-husband's auntie and uncle, whose names are Heather and Ian Wilkinson. Now, at this lunch, she served them a beef Wellington for lunch. Now, following this meal, all 4 guests became critically ill, and Don, Gail, and Heather died. So those are the 2 parents of Simon.
So her ex-in-laws.
They both died. Mm-hmm. And then Simon, the ex-husband's auntie, also died. The uncle was very ill. He spent many weeks in hospital.
That's Ian, right?
That's Ian.
Yeah.
He survived, and so he was the sole survivor of this lunch. Mm-hmm. Erin, who was eating at the lunch, she did not fall critically ill.
Understood.
I don't think that she was sick at all.
Okay.
Now, following their deaths, Erin was charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
Just quickly before we get into the trial, I've read a lot of headlines about this, and one of the ones that I haven't really understood is about one of the murder charges against Erin being dropped.
Yes.
Can you just talk me through that?
Yeah, so that did happen, but it was actually in relation to something separate. So Erin was also charged with attempted murder of her ex-husband, who I've been speaking about, Simon, but that was not in relation to this lunch.
So there was a separate murder charge, not in relation to this lunch, that police had previously brought against Erin Patterson, but that has been dropped now.
That has been dropped.
Okay.
It was dropped at the start of the trial. We didn't really find out too many details about...
I always thought it was about the lunch.
No.
Okay.
We didn't really find out too many details about why it was dropped. We just know that it was dropped.
Okay.
And so now this entire trial just centres around this lunch and the alleged murders and attempted murder of the 4 guests.
Okay, so this trial is focusing on a lunch where 3 people became critically ill and died, and another was very unwell but managed to survive. So what have we learnt during the course of this trial? Because it's now been a week or so. What have we learnt so far?
So mostly what we have learned so far is from Erin's estranged husband, Simon.
Yeah.
He was the first witness called. And he told the court that his relationship with Erin was amicable following their split in 2015, but that, like I said before, it started to go downhill in late 2022, and that was allegedly over child support.
Okay.
I also said this before, but just quickly to recap, Simon was invited to the lunch in July 2023, but cancelled the night before via text. And we have seen those text messages come out during this trial. And so in the text messages shown to the court, Erin told Simon that she wanted to have an important conversation with him and his relatives about her health at this lunch. And so she said that his cancellation was, quote, really disappointing. And she noted that she had spent many hours and a small fortune preparing a special meal.
So a special meal being a direct quote from what she said to Simon in those texts. It's so fascinating. You mentioned there that she said, or it's alleged that she said she wanted to talk about her health. What was that about? Do we have any more understanding about what the health issues were?
Yeah, so Erin did tell her lunch guests that she had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. That wasn't true though, we have since learned. And both sides, so defense and prosecution, agree that she was not diagnosed with that disease. So that's not in contention.
Okay.
We also know that in March, she did do a cervical cancer test, but that returned negative.
Okay, so we understand that she wanted to talk to her ex's family about a health update, and that health update turned out not necessarily to be true. What else have we learnt from Simon's testimony? Hi, I'm Zara. I'm the co-founder of the Daily Aus, and we started this company because we think news can be done differently. If you agree, you can hit subscribe. It's the best way to help us grow. Now, back to the video.
So we also learnt that Simon told the court he visited both couples the following morning. He said both were not feeling well at all.
Yeah, I hadn't known that. I thought that they had died fairly quickly after, and that's not what happened.
No.
There was time between.
Yeah. And one thing that he mentioned is that his aunt Heather commented on the plates that Erin used.
Seen a lot of headlines about these plates.
Yeah, so Heather told Simon that Erin served herself on an orange plate, but served her guests their meals on these grey plates.
Yeah.
Now, when he was cross-examined by the defence, Simon said that it was fair to assume the mismatch could have been due to the fact that Erin, quote, had a bunch of ceramic plates that weren't all the same. But like you said, these plates have emerged as kind of a key piece of evidence that is being scrutinised.
Yeah. And Simon wasn't at the lunch, so his testimony, he's reflecting on the conversations he had after the lunch, but you said that there was a sole survivor. So there was someone at that lunch who can testify. Was his name Ian? Ian. What have we heard from Ian?
Yeah, he only testified yesterday for the first time, so he entered the witness box, and he started off by kind of describing his relationship with Erin. He said that they had a fairly amicable relationship and that they were very happy to accept the invitation to go to lunch. One thing he mentioned is that Heather, his wife, wanted to look at the pantry in Erin's kitchen. He said that she had a particular interest because they had just built one in their own home. But he said that Erin was really reluctant about this visit to the pantry and that she kind of followed Heather in. I will just point out these are all allegations, so these haven't been put to Erin.
Yeah.
But this is his recounting of what happened.
Because Erin hasn't testified yet.
No.
Okay,
no.
Understood.
He also confirmed what we were talking about before about these different plates. So he again said that the four guests ate on one style of plate and Erin ate on another. He also confirmed that after the lunch, Erin told the guests that she had a life-threatening cancer and that she was particularly anxious about telling their kids about it. He said that then when they left, it wasn't until that night at about 11 p.m. when Heather first started to feel sick, and then he soon after that also started to feel quite ill. And then the next day, all four guests went to hospital where they were treated for suspected mushroom poisoning.
So obviously his testimony will continue and there will be a number of people who will be called up to the witness box there. I just want to shift gears a bit because I've read about a Facebook group and I've seen quite a few headlines around that. What's that in relation to?
Yeah, so this is also something that has come out, that Erin was allegedly part of a true crime Facebook group where she met some people on there and they created a private group chat, and she allegedly told those people about dehydrating mushrooms and a particular interest that she had in dehydrating mushrooms. In one message exchange shown to the court, Erin had said, quote, "I've been hiding powdered mushrooms in everything." So that has been another piece of evidence that has emerged in the trial so far. And some of the people that were in that true crime Facebook group have also been called as witnesses to this trial.
Okay, so it's a 6-week trial. You said we're about 1.5 weeks into it. When are we expecting to hear from Erin? Because obviously these are just allegations that she hasn't been able to defend yet because she hasn't been in the witness box. When will we hear from her?
I'm actually not sure when exactly we will hear from her, but I do know that we have heard from her once before, and that was in August 2023. So that was before she had actually been charged with the murders.
Oh, I remember this.
Yes.
Yeah.
It went quite viral,
Yeah.
and it actually made global headlines when it happened. And she was very emotional at the time. So the media found her and they asked her questions, and she was really emotional, talking about, she said, losing people that she loved, and she said that she was devastated by it. I thought I'd play a little bit of that clip.
It's a tragedy what's happened.
Can you tell us about the meal that you cooked?
I'm so devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Don. Don is still in hospital, the loss of Ian and Heather and Gail. They were some of the best people that I've ever met.
So that was almost 2 years ago now. Like I said, we haven't yet heard from Erin herself, but I'm sure that will be a very big moment when we do hear from Erin in the witness box.
Just quickly before we end, is this trial being decided by a judge or a jury? Because I'm always curious in cases like this where there's so much media attention, like everyone around the country was talking about this story nonstop. Is it a judge or a jury?
It's a jury. It's a jury of 15. Re, what you're saying about it being a high-profile case, I have seen the judge ask the jurors many times not to read any social media commentary about this case so that their opinions aren't influenced by others.
Yeah, really, really interesting, and certainly a story that has gripped the country. And so we'll be sure to bring you updates, certainly as Erin herself begins to testify and defend these murder charges. And later, once that jury, as you said, hands down their decision. So thank you for explaining that, Billi.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of The Daily Aus. We'll be back later today with the headlines, but until then, have a great Wednesday.